Thank you, Leader. All ready to go. Thank you very much.
Super, thank you. Well, good afternoon all, and welcome to the Vale of Glamorgan Council's Cabinet meeting of the 8th of February 2024. I'm Councillor Liz Burnett, and Chair of the meeting as the Leader of the Vale of Glamorgan Council and Cabinet Member for Performance and Resources. We're using today the Council's hybrid platform, so just a couple of last reminders, and that's that the meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and it will be uploaded to the Vale of Glamorgan Council's website as soon as is practicable after the meeting. Could I also ask all participants to please ensure that if participating in person in the chamber, that their microphone is not activated, and that remote attendees mute themselves when not speaking to avoid any background noise or feedback when other participants are speaking. If anyone wishes to speak, if they could activate their respective request to speak function or use the raise hand function if attending remotely. All debate, as usual, should be raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. The chat function is used only to highlight any technical issues and to get the attention of either the chair or Democratic Services Officer. So that's the usual housekeeping details. So if I can put that to one side and we can get on with the agenda proper. So welcome all again, and the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Seeing as I either note people are online or in the chamber, I'm assuming we don't have any. No, that's fine then.
Just to confirm, everybody is present from Cabinet.
Super.
Either online or in the chamber.
Excellent. And then agenda item 2, minutes of the meetings held on the 18th and 25th of January 2024. Can I take those as true reflections of those meetings?
Yeah. And I'll second those minutes, Leader.
Thank you. Agenda item 3 is to receive any declarations of interest, and if there are, the nature of such interest under the Council's Code of Conduct. I haven't heard of any from any members.
Just to confirm, Leader, no declarations have been formally received. Thank you.
Super, thank you. And then before we actually go into the agenda proper, I think it's worth saying that at agenda item 6, we're going to be dealing with the pay policy 2024-25. And for that pay policy, officers will be leaving the meeting, although they're not on screen, they are actually in the meeting. So it's probably best if we take that to the end of the agenda and we deal with it after agenda item 9. So if there aren't any objections to that, that's what we'll do. So I can't hear anything from anyone, so I'll carry on with that. The first item on the agenda is a reference from the Governance and Audit Committee on the 11th of December. Their meeting then, and this was when they considered the Corporate Complaints Annual Report. And the report that they received was actually, the objective of it was to ensure that complaints experienced a consistent and fair response, and that recording and monitoring of complaints allowed the council to actually understand how satisfied citizens were with the services provided, how satisfied they were with how complaints were investigated. It monitored how responsive we were to statutory guidance and customer expectations in relation to the speed of managing complaints. And also, I think probably for me, very important, identifying any potential for improving services by analysing what had been learned by complaints. The analysis of complaints information for 2023-24 showed an increase in the number of complaints received, with the long-term trend increasing. And we have moved above the 9-year annual average of 390. So it is felt that our responsiveness has continued to decline. That although our complaint handling was meeting the requirements of statutory bodies, we didn't breach their requirements. That we do need an increased focus on learning from the complaints that we receive. And I think it's fair to say that a number of complaints that we receive are because people disagree with decisions that we take, and where we might have taken a different view on a topic. And in those cases, we possibly couldn't do anything different, but we could explain and we could communicate sometimes more effectively. It goes through the complaints that went to the Public Service Ombudsman Wales, and none of those were actually taken to investigation. So the annual letter from the Public Service Ombudsman Wales was attached, Appendix B, in it, to the report. So the chair actually talked about his view that there was likely to be an element of under-reporting to the council. And that's actually going to be something that I will be interested to discuss with him when we meet shortly, in terms of how he sees that, because obviously he's got experience in public service himself and dealing with complaints. So the committee actually noted the contents of the report, and also resolved that they would continue to receive an annual update on the corporate complaints and compliments, and that they would refer the report and their comments to Cabinet for consideration. And as I said, I look forward to having a conversation about this with the chair. And I think that for us today, that it's for us to note the reference, and as I said, we can consider that later should anything else arrive. So I would move we note.
And I'll second those, Leader.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is report of a meeting, and that's Cardiff Bay Advisory Committee of the 29th of November. And I believe Mark is the chair, so I will hand over to you. Thanks, Mark.
And thank you very much, Leader, for the opening. Yes, we had a very interesting meeting on the 29th of November, which seems like a long time ago now, but I know it's only a few months ago. But we discussed a lot of matters. The first thing that we discussed was the barrage. And what people understand is that there's lots of events go on the barrage, not just on the rivers, respectively, but also concerts. For instance, there was a very big Live Nation series of concerts that was well attended by lots and lots of people, and lots of people enjoyed themselves. There was also the Cardiff Half Marathon, and again, that was well attended. There were 20,000 competitors there, and it went very well. And then we also had one or two issues. We had an issue with the operation of the Pontefract Bridge, and that's the bridge, as you know, that crosses to Watkiss Way on the other side, from near where Tesco's is. And that's very much well used by the public, as you appreciate. But again, it's over the River Ely, and obviously, you know, it's very much well used. But unfortunately, one of the hydraulic hoses failed. But nevertheless, that was sorted very, very quickly, and allowed pedestrian access in a matter about a week, and that's really, really good. We also had the Cardiff Bay Yacht Club had an open cod competition, and 86 boats took part in the event, and obviously there was very successful. And I understand quite a few people caught cod in the open sea around the area, which is really, really successful. We also had, in terms of the environment, we had a company who wanted to stock 30,000 eels into Cardiff Bay, but there was a decision that would not be a good thing to do, because at the moment we've still got some good eel population which are still really healthy in the bay. And we're also getting a PhD student appointed by Cardiff University to investigate water quality management in Cardiff Bay, and we look forward to his presentation sometime in this current year at a subsequent meeting. We also had an update from Natural Resources Wales, where they looked at dissolved oxygen levels. Although it declined a bit in the summer, sometimes that's due to algae, it's now returned, and really, really fortunate that is happening. We then had an incident in terms of pollution and the way that looked at as well. And that's clearly an issue that we need to look at. And finally, of course, we then looked at the fish baths and how that worked. Okay. And that was really, really good. So really, really pleased about that. And then we looked at abstraction license requirements as well. So I like to move these minutes. Okay. And I was looking for a seconder. So thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I'm happy to second that. It's fond memories of my time on that committee. Yes, it's very enjoyable. Thank you. So I can't see any hands up or any dissent. So as I said, have we got some? Mark, are you seconding that we note? Or no, sorry, I seconded that we note.
Yes.
We're there eventually. Thank you. Right. Moving on to my reports, as I said, I'm moving the pay policy down to the end of the agenda. So we're on to agenda item 7. That is the timetable of meetings. It's something we do every year. It's quite complex to make sure that we do everything in order. We hit all the regulatory timescales, and that there are times for scrutiny to feed into Cabinet and Cabinet to feed into Council, and so on and so forth. So this is a draft. This is a timetable that has gone through talking to SLT, senior leadership team, the Cabinet, and the Democratic team, and so it's before us today for approval. So the recommendation is that the timetable of meetings for May 2024 to May 2025, as set out in Appendix A to the report, be approved, subject to any future changes in arrangement for meetings deemed appropriate by the Mayor of the Council or the relevant committee/meeting chair. And I move.
And I'll second that recommendation.
Thank you. Put that to one side. And then we're on to agenda item 8, and this is back to Mark, which is a report that's coming to us, and I believe then going to scrutiny. So we'll be having a lot of conversation there. The highway maintenance inspection regime. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Leader. Yes, this is a report about the way that we maintain our highways. Now, traditionally, we've always used a system whereby we inspect largely upon demand, but now we're moving to a new regime when we're going to be assessing risk. And so therefore, we're undertaking this to make sure we can maximise the health and efficiencies of our highway regime so that we minimise the amount of, what I would say, reactive maintenance, because I think it's quite crucial we're trying to be as proactive as possible. And we really focus our attention upon the highways and active travel routes that people use often. And so therefore, I'm going to move to the recommendations. Okay, I'm going to read them out. The first one, that the changes to the Council Highways network hierarchy, inspection regime and repair regime as described in the report and contained at Appendix 1 be agreed in principle as the basis for the Council's inspection and routine repair of publicly maintainable highway assets from the 1st of April 2024. Number 2, that Cabinet agrees in principle to adopt the national minimum standards for inspection of CH3, which are the main and secondary distributed roads such as Fordham, Barry, and such as the inspection increase from every 6 months to every 3 months. Number 3, that Cabinet agrees in principle to adopt the standard of inspecting CH4 category roads, which are link roads such as Romney Road, Barry, and Turnover Way, Penarth, from every 6 months to every 3 months. That this report, number 4, is referred to the Environment and Regeneration Scrutiny Committee for its consideration. And number 5, that subject to the Scrutiny Committee agreeing the details of this report and making no further comments, recommendations 1, 2, and 3 be agreed with the proposed changes come into effect from the 1st of April 2024. And I so move.
Thank you, Mark. Happy to second that. And I said there'll be a full discussion of it, no doubt, at Environment and Regeneration Scrutiny Committee in the fullness of time. So again, I can't see any other hands up or any dissent, so we'll take that as agreed. Agenda item 9 is the Cowbridge Physic Garden Fields in Trust status, and this is one for Cabinet Member for Leisure, Sport and Wellbeing. So over to you, Gwyn.
Thank you, Leader. This report is to seek approval to dedicate Cowbridge Physic Garden as protected green space with Fields in Trust. Several of the council's outdoor spaces are registered with the Fields in Trust, and officers have found that working with the Trust on these sites to be a positive experience for the site and the community. A request has now been received from the trustees of the Physic Garden in Cowbridge, who believe that dedicating this Physic Garden as a Field in Trust would be in the public and their interests. They also feel it would demonstrate the council's commitment to the recently declared climate emergency that will enable the trustees to access grants that are presently unavailable to them, amongst other benefits. A previous request was considered by the council in 2019, but was rejected. But a new lease was, however, approved at this time. But now we have moved on with climate change, etc., and confirmation has been received from the Fields in Trust that it would wish the Physic Garden to be dedicated, as it believes this would secure the future of the open space for future generations. Cowbridge ward members have also expressed their support for a deed of dedication relating to the Physic Garden. And it's interesting to note that TripAdvisor says that the Cowbridge Physic Gardens are the #1 tourism attraction in Cowbridge Town Centre. To dedicate the Physic Garden under the appropriate Fields in Trust programme, the Council and the trustees of Cowbridge Physic Garden Trust will be required to enter into a deed of dedication with the National Playing Fields Association, who operate as Fields in Trust. This is a legally binding document containing undertakings on behalf of all parties to do it. That will mean that the Physic Gardens will be dedicated as a protected green space in perpetuity. Taking all factors into account, including the long-term restrictions that would be placed on the land, this report recommends that authority is given to dedicate the Physic Garden as Fields in Trust site. I give you the following recommendations. 1, that delegated authority is granted to the Director of Environment and Housing in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Leisure, Sport and Wellbeing and the Monitoring Officer, Head of Legal and Democratic Services, to dedicate the Physic Garden Cowbridge under the appropriate Fields in Trust programme with the agreement of the Cowbridge Physic Garden Trust. And 2, that the Monitoring Officer, Head of Legal and Democratic Services, be authorised to complete and execute the required legal documentation for the Fields in Trust dedication. I move, Leader.
Thank you, Gwyn. And I'm not surprised that the Physic Garden is the top attraction. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it is a huge credit to all the volunteers that work on that. It's also a timely reminder that actually month or so's time is it would be a good time to start seeing the garden in its spring effect, and worth numerous trips there over the year. It really is a gorgeous facility, and good that it's being protected for the future. So yes, very happy to second, and can't see any dissent on screen or hear any in the room. So that's agreed. Thank you all. And then we go now back to agenda item 6, which is the pay policy. And for that, we need to wait for any senior officers to leave the meeting.
Thank you, Leader. Bear with us for 1 second. We'll just make sure for you. Thank you, Leader. They have left the meeting. I can confirm that.
Super, thanks.
Thank you.
So yes, the pay policy, it's actually a statutory requirement of the council under the Localism Act that we prepare a pay policy statement for the new financial year 2024, for new financial year next year 2024-25, which needs to be approved and published by the 31st of March of this year. The pay policy has been incrementally developed since 2012, and to incorporate a number of different areas, and that's different guidance, say stuff from the Welsh Government, changes to local authority standing orders, changes by the Local Government Wales Act 2015, the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021, and any necessary refinements as a result of changes to council senior management structure, as well as the effects of any nationally or locally negotiated pay and benefits, along with the provisions of the national living wage. The policy is set out in Appendix A, and this report will be going to Corporate Performance and Resources scrutiny on the 21st of February, and then it will go to council. And I think that there's a typo there because we moved the date of council, and I've missed this before, on the 6th of March, I believe. So I'll be double checking that with the.
That's correct, Leader. So that's a typo. That should be the 6th of March, not the 4th.
Yeah. No, I've missed it on all my other readings. So yeah, it's easily at the end of a line. So turn that to the 6th of March. So as I said, it's fairly straightforward. It's before us. It's what we always do, and all the details are in Appendix A, which will be fully discussed both at scrutiny and at full council, I have no doubt. So the recommendations for us today are that Cabinet considers the required changes to the Council's pay policy 2024-25 as set out in this report and as incorporated in the revised statement at Appendix A. 2, that in pursuance of Recommendation 1, Cabinet endorses the pay policy and refers it for consideration by Scrutiny Committee, Corporate Performance and Resources on the 21st of February 2024, and for final consideration approval by Council on the 6th of March 2024. Should Scrutiny Committee make no further comments, then Cabinet would consider the pay policy as agreed and therefore referred straight on to Council to full Council for consideration. And I would move those 2 recommendations.
And I'll second those recommendations.
Thank you. And I can't see any hands up or any dissent, so I take that as agreed. So that brings us to the end of the formal agenda. I don't have any urgent items under part 1, and I don't have any part 2 items. So it just remains for me to thank everybody for their attendance today and ask us just to remain for a short while until the Democratic Services Officer can confirm that the recording